All right, as you can see, my compost bin has some new additions. I cleared a wood pile that was in the corner. The dog is getting up on top of that, and with the neighbor selling his house, didn't need my friendly dog peeking over the fence, scaring new neighbors away. So I had moved that temporarily to this bin. These are some pine needle kind of things, so not exactly the content that I really want to have the bulk of my compost bin, but I think it's green matter. I think it'll be valid to put in there. It's going to change the pH a little bit. But I think with the content and the amount of compost I've got, it shouldn't really be a big factor there. So my next step is I'm going to grab the clippers, strip some of the needles and the smaller stuff off of this that'll actually compost. And then I'm just going to add the sticks to the pile and figure out what to do with those. All right, little update here. You can see I've cleared out the first compost bin. Lots of needles here. These had already started composting over in the wood pile. So I'm adding those in, mixing that in with the leaves and the rest of the compost here, and that should contribute some additional nutrients into my compost. Still got another bin to clear out, just grabbing all the big limbs. See, I'm using a little kiddie pull here, just pulling off the smaller leaves and stuff so I can break that down a little bit more, add it into the compost, and the big sticks go to the wood pile. Yeah, as I was coming back into the backyard, I noticed this little guy. I think he was probably hiding behind my compost bin, and he got, I don't know, relocated. Cool little frog. Toad. Yeah, awesome. Cool little guy. All right, well, we'll leave you alone, let you be. Yeah, I missed the bearded dragon that we had. This is nice. I know. If I showed you to my daughter, she'd want to keep you as a pet. Or my son, maybe. Yeah. Cool fella. All right. Well, leave you be. All right, another little update on the composting. This is all leaves from last fall. Got those bagged up, ready to go in the compost bin. All the sticks and limbs there. Still working on this pile, pulling everything out. Got that one just about ready. Then I'm forming a big pile of all the pine needles and little sticks and stuff. So I'm trying to figure out exactly what I want to do with that. I'm thinking I may combine this with the dog poop and make a separate compost bin for not in the garden stuff, so that way I don't have to worry about it. Not really supposed to use the dog poop in the stuff that is going to be compost for food that we're going to eat. It's not necessarily all bad, but you have to be very careful about it. So just to avoid that situation, I haven't been including it in my compost bin. So I think I might make a separate one. Trying to do some additional work in the yard. So I can go ahead and keep filming and show that. So you see we've got these nice trees here. That's where all that's coming from. Cleared some of the lower limbs, but all the pine needles and everything that fall on the ground here, kind of got it to where there's not a whole lot of grass growing. This is already mostly in shade part of the day. That's the house is kind of blocking it. Got southern exposure, so sun's just over the chimney right there. Follows the arc over to that side of the garden. So another nice view of the garden there. But what I'm wanting to do is try to improve the soil through here, so we can try to get some some grass growing that's happy in the shade. A lot of what you see here is just kind of, well, it's not green right now because it's still warming up, but a lot of this is mock strawberry. So not really, I mean, it's not poisonous or anything, so I mean, you could eat it, they're just not very good. But yeah, I tried growing some of those last year in the garden too. But yeah, that's kind of taken over part of the yard to at least give us something green there. You can see under there, there's moss growing. So this is very, shady kind of stuff that's growing. Come around here, you can see this is very sandy. I think when the contractors kind of leveled the property, there was a lot of sand. So high sand content here, which we've had ground bees and they love it, unfortunately. But we have to constantly try to get rid of those, and neighbors got them really bad, so I was trying to keep them from coming into my yard. So I did a water and apple cider vinegar or white vinegar. Can't remember which one, but it's basically vinegar diluted would help get them so that they weren't happy living in the soil. And you see this hill over here by the fence. That is just all moss, which is nice. It looks pretty, but the problem is it's about that deep. It's just like a little cover, sand underneath. So if you're not careful when you walk on it, you pull up part of it. Yeah. So if I can get soil to grow, I might do something with this moss. I'm gonna get use for some of that. It look really pretty if I have some stuff potted and want to include it there. We'll set that back down, help that cover up a spot. But yeah, so that's kind of the backyard, trying to improve that. Got the front yard cleaned up, got new grass planted last year, so that's coming in. It looks much better. And then our nice little sitting area in our old, well, we wanted to teach the kids to swim, so we put in an above ground pool. So that's the circle there. And it used to be an above ground pool. This was the spot for the pump right here, little platform there. So we just kind of turned it into a little sitting area, a little fire pit there, just to make use of the circle. But since we're planning on selling the house, not sure if this is something we want to keep or kind of turn it into something nicer to, give it some market value somehow. And then, yeah, back to the garden. All right, I'm gonna keep working the compost. All right, so I'm all set up here. I'm gonna start with opening these up. With these compost bins, it's just removing these little keys from the connectors. Put that back in there so I don't lose it. There's like 4 of these along the side, and that'll open it up. Move the camera around, get this part. All right. So I put up a couple of stakes around the edge so I can just kind of open it up. And look at that. Soil just wanting to pour out of it. Now I got to break that up, get all the extra bits that haven't composted yet, kind of filter out, get the sticks and the big parts out of it. But yeah, there's a whole lot of new soil to go into the garden and wherever else I need it. Just going to go under the deck here and grab this tarp. I think this will work. Hey, so with that said, me coming up with ideas on the fly, pulling this tarp from under the deck just to use as a place to spread out all this compost. That is just pretty though. That is some beautiful dark soil. All right, so now let's spread this out, see what we got. Yeah, it's gonna be a nice pile of compost. Yeah, at least it's not frozen anymore. That was so funny. Coming out here, tine just hitting like a rock. It was so frozen over. Yeah, switching to the shovel. Yeah, this is a lot. This is either going to be a time lapse or just a cut to when I'm done. Yeah, I got a huge amount of soil to move here. Getting my workout in today in the garden. Whole eggshell in there. Crumble that up. Mix that in a little bit better. Hard to believe a year ago what I'm doing today. Would not have seen this coming. Last March, my world hadn't got flipped on its head with deaths in the family, reassessing my future, and really making plans to learn the skills to be a farmer. A lot can change in a year. Shoot. This week's taught me a lot can change in a day. Definitely a lot's changed this week. Hoping to have a podcast with my sister so I can kind of capture that in that format. Discuss all the crazy events of my week. Hi. I'm talking to myself on video as we speak, so. Video? Yeah. You'll see her someday. Yeah, with it angled, I thought you could see her feet. You can't even see her feet. All right, love you. Have fun shopping. Yeah, that was a little interaction with my wife while I'm filming. Daughter's home for spring break, so they're heading out shopping. Yeah, we just came back from next door. The neighbor who put his house on the market in the last week now has a contract pending. So yeah, moving quick. We just went over and got some tips from him, got some contacts for people to help us with that process. A lot of ideas, but making us aware of how much work we have ahead of us to get our house ready to sell. So add that on to new job, new channel, all the new skills I'm developing. A little overwhelming. So it's all gonna work out. Feeling like I'm on the path I'm meant to be on and just enjoying the journey. I think maybe 10 more shovels and I'll call it quits. Not that I'm counting. Speaking of not counting, about 980 more days till retirement. Still trying to make every day count. And then I'll start another timer to make all the days after retirement count. Just finding that next big milestone. Okay, yeah, that's ground. I can see it in that one. It's a good thing I'm not afraid of hard work and don't mind touching poop. I think those are going to be essential skills for being a farmer. Is there a good list for essential skills to being a farmer? I'm sure that's a thing. Should probably do some research, check that list. If I can't find a good one, I'll make my own. Or at least, you know, what do I consider essential farming skills before I head in, and then be interesting to see a year into farming how I adjust that list. All right, I'm calling that bottom of the pile here. So that is my emptied compost bin and my huge compost pile. Now I just got to clean that up, get the good stuff out, put the rest back to keep processing, add more stuff to it, and then get to work on that next bin. All right, so took a little pause there to set the camera up in a different spot. Not sure how long this is going to take. This feels like a long project coming up. I think what I'm going to do is use the new compost bin that I made and just create a pile in that for now, just because I'm not sure where to put all the compost. Let's see, I kind of need to filter that out, but I don't have a good way of doing it yet. What I've done in the past was I just ran it through. Yeah, I came up with this as a little temporary solution last year. This was extra chicken wire from when I made my fence for the garden. So I was using that and just setting it on the wheelbarrow and using that to kind of get all the big stuff, the sticks and things, toss those back in the bin. So I can do that. That's going to be a long process, but that might be my best option, just to go ahead and get the good stuff out, get it into the wheelbarrow, move it to another spot, put the rest back in, and then as I process the next compost bin, add it to the same one, and then I can start fresh with the new one for spring. Then I've already got all my compost ready, and the rest of it is still processing all in one spot. Seems like the best plan. So to do that, I'm going to use that for now until I come up with something better. Get that wheelbarrow over here. Actually, let's dump that out. Again, this is another one of those little spur of the moment, needed something, so use what I had. Let's see if I can incorporate that into a little filter here as I'm processing things. Yeah, that's what I thought. It's just not secure enough. I'm gonna have to find a better system here. But yeah, this is kind of what I was doing last year. And then that left all the big pieces. Toss that in the pile, rinse, repeat. Yeah, I'm already noticing flaws in this system. Some big stuff's making its way through. It slides off, so I need to secure it. Let's see how I can optimize what I've got to create something usable here. All right, so first thing is I need to be able to secure this a little bit better. Hey, I bought some clamps. I'm not sure if those will work. I think clamps will work with this. Let's see what I can come up with. Chance to be clever. All right, hello again. Just gathering stuff I found in the garage just to give me some options here. Got clamps, a wire basket, some clay pots that I'm wanting to use as oyas in the garden. So I'm going to test those out. Let's reassess my materials, what I got going in here, and what my process might be. Okay, so what I found in the garage, we'll see if we can improve my process. Got this wire mesh. It was a shelf in a IKEA cabinet at some point. Got my clamps. Definitely invest in a set of clamps. These things are really coming in handy. So what I'm thinking I'm going to do is try to use these chicken wire and another one of my blue storage bins. Use that to kind of filter things through and dump that into the wheelbarrow. Wheelbarrow goes to the other compost bin. The filtered out stuff goes back into that compost bin. Finish this pile, do the other one. And then I have a compost bin that has all the rest of the stuff that needs to finish processing. Fresh compost for use in the garden and the yard. And I'm ready for springtime with grass clippings and new stuff going into an empty compost bin ready for a new season. So that's the plan. Let's see if we can put the pieces together and make it happen. Yeah, this is another one of those times where if I was doing this without filming it, it would be a much easier project. Trying to figure out where the camera goes and how to make footage from this, it complicates logistics of things. Just figuring out logistics, planning it out in my head a little bit before I start taking action. Just checking and see, does it make more sense to go bottom that way and just kind of hook this around? That might do. We'll give that a shot. Bend that down. Go underneath. That seems solid. Yeah, that might just work. Put that there. That seems like a solid unit to me. All right, we just made a filter bucket. Awesome. All right, let's test it out. So it works. Okay, see, this kind of works. The problem is it's too manual. I need to improve this some more. All right, it proved that this can work. Now, how do I make it work better? If I had it to where it's going into a bucket, it'd be easier to kind of shake and bake, get it in there, done. If I do it that way, it's not going to secure it. But if I can secure the chicken wire to the basket, that would make it easier to put it in, shake it out, dump out the other stuff into the bin directly instead of on the ground where I got to go back later and pick it all up. So just thinking through the process, learning as I go, learn from my mistakes, and benefit when I actually figure something out. It happens sometimes. So I'm seeing a little bit of bigger stuff that does still make it through if it hits it at the right angle. So what if we try to conform this to the basket, make it a pocket, and then it's a dump, shake, dump it out. Yeah, I've got these sticks in there just to kind of keep it into a rectangular shape, but I think those are going to make it harder to shape it to the basket I've got. What if we remove that stick from my little assembly here? The problem is that's going to make it less sturdy. It's a trade-off. Not sure what would work better. Keep it in there, give it structure, take it out, and make it conform to the basket. Let's think long-term. Let's remove it, and I can secure it to the basket through other means later. So that means getting rid of both of these sticks, keeping the ends for now. And I can loop those. That secures there. Now I've got an enclosed basket. Can use these as handles and to secure everything together. If I can get that stick in the right spot, it'll anchor that into place. Most of that one came loose. We're close. It's looking right. Just need to get the logistics of it so everything's in the right spots. All right, that seems good. Oh, that slipped off. I think the trick is going to be go right there. There we go. Okay, I see what it's doing. There instead of there, and then it can lock. Aha. Yeah, I see what I was doing wrong. With the clamps, there's a little section that the release can get triggered if you're using that as the touch point to lock it in place. So as long as I shift it slightly over so it's not pressing on that, it should be secure. It will lock. Keeps wanting to slip over there. So I was trying to pull it into the position to where it is pressing on the release. In my opinion, that's kind of bad design for a clamp. It shouldn't have a release that falls within your clamping area. And that seems like a silly design choice to me, especially when it automatically wants to pull it over if you're not using the actual pads as your clamp points. Get unstuck there, and we have a filter basket. Easy, done. Now let's try using it. All right, we'll go with that. All right, let's try another shovelful, see if we've improved our process. Actually, it looks like 2 shovelfuls. I'm gonna shake it out. You can hear a lot going out onto the ground around it. So I can kind of use that to grate some of the big clumps. And it's gonna be a slow process, but I think the end result's gonna be pretty nice. And I think I learned there I can do 2 scoops, but makes it a little bit more difficult process. And then there's all the big stuff that goes back in the bin. All right, we do that 1,000 more times and we're done. Easy. Yeah, you're not gonna sit through all that, are you? I don't think you'd even sit through a time lapse of that. And I don't blame you. I'm thinking if I wasn't using my phone as my camera at the moment, I'd pop in an earbud and listen to a whole movie while I process this and just have a relaxing day in the garden. We're gonna go for 3. Let's see if it works. It might be too much. Yeah, 3's too much. I think it's too heavy, too bulky. It's hard to process it through the chicken wire. That's too much. Panning for gold. Yeah, I think 2 is the magic number. All right, let's get in the routine and do that till all this pile's gone, then do the next one. Whew, fun day. I think that's a good first test here. I think what I'm learning here is I don't need the bucket now. If I'm gonna go this approach, I can go straight to the wheelbarrow. It's gonna catch some of this runoff and make it a lot easier to filter and move. It also saves me the, I gotta lift this heavy thing and dump it in there now. Lift with the legs. Now look at there. Can show off that pretty compost right there. Lovely. But let's go ahead and test out using this as my direct into the container there. Try a couple of shovelfuls, take off the top of the mountain over here. And we'll go with 2 like I was before. Then we grab our basket. Give it a nice shake. Oh, clamp's coming off. Clamp in the basket. Clamp down, clamp down. See if we can set that again. Dump the debris. Future compost. All right, it's looking good. All right, good test. I'm liking it. This is gonna work. Using what you got to do what you gotta do. Shake, 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 Sonora. Shake your body line. Shake, 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 Sonora. Shake it all the time. Shake it up, baby, now. Shake it, baby. Twist and shout. Twist and shout. Come on, come on, come on, baby, now. Come on, baby. You work it on out. All right. All right, this would be a good time to request some more songs with Shake It. So I'm doing this. Put something in the comments. Songs to sing to yourself when you're shaking compost through a filter. I'm taking requests. Panning for gold. Garden gold. All right. This is working. Slow going, kind of, but I don't know, moving along. Yeah, let me check that out. That's not bad work. Imagine how much that will cost me going to a store to get that much compost. Just making it in my own yard from scraps. Be right back. Whew, I'm just tracking all the caked on stuff that's on my shoes. All right, gonna need this to unload. All right. Ever improving. I've come up with another little novel solution from the things that I've got. Got a gazebo on the deck that's going to be going away when we move, and some of the material on that has already gotten a little shredded from the high winds. So going to try to incorporate that into my compost bin. Since I've got those big gaps with my impromptu compost bin yesterday, going to use that to give it a little bit more containment without reducing the aeration. So I'm going to pause there, grab the materials, relocate the camera to another spot, and continue filming. Having a fun day. Loving the garden time. But you know what? We're expecting snow tomorrow. Again. All right, got the camera repositioned, got it precariously on the garden rail there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add this. This was one of the screens for my gazebo that's up on the deck. That's got wind blown, it's got holes and stuff in it. Yeah, you can see it's a little worse for wear, but I think it'll still be functional as a way to keep all of my fresh compost in the bin here, since I've got that to where it's aerating so that can continue composting. I think I can double this up, have it stretched over the sidewalls and make this work. It'll keep all my compost fresh in there, and I can just pull that out as I need it. Just tuck it in between the boards there. And that looks nice and clean. There are some ties on there, but it's going to be weighted down with all the compost. I don't think it's going to need to be tied down. All right, so that's one side secured. Lengthwise, that is almost perfect. Now, this isn't taking care of the back side. Let's see how that looks. Functional, but trying to figure out how to optimize it a little bit, make it work better. Yeah, unfortunately, it does have a big rip in there. Let's see if we can make that hold together long enough to at least get the compost going in. Yeah, so now we have a nice little net to go around it. Oh, that compost is so pretty. Yeah, it's still got some little sticks and stuff in it that, you know, worked its way lengthwise through the holes in the filter, but looking pretty solid. To avoid dropping more on the ground, let's go there. put that little front wall on there to keep everything in. Problem is that makes it to where it's harder to dump directly into the bin. That's all right. I need shoveling time. All right, first load done. Give you a little close up here. That's what we got now. Nice, pretty compost in a compost bin. Just ready to pile it up and use it in the garden when I'm ready for it. Awesome. Not going to go through that process on camera every time, but you know, first time through, figuring things out. All right. Oh no, I'm feeling raindrops. I think the work's going to continue, but I may not be filming it in the rain. I think I might go grab a jacket so I can not get too drenched. Continue doing this and do another little update once I've gone through the process. And see, got my basket there, ready for going through the rest of that pile. I wasn't expecting any rain today, but we are expecting potential snow tomorrow. Yay, a good day to be doing telework. Starting my working from home tomorrow. All right, hopefully the rain doesn't produce more than a little drizzle. Getting misty. We'll see how bad the rain gets. You may get to watch me do all this in the rain. Trying to be careful not to poke a hole in my tarp, the shovel. Well, the goal is to get all this done today, so I've got footage to go ahead and start making the next video. I'm not talking right now because I know that I'm in for a lot of work here. This is more for a 800 time lapse, or whatever the limit is on the video editor for how much it can speed it up. And with it all exposed like this, I'm hoping it doesn't rain because it feels like that's going to turn a lot of this into mud. Figure feet are safer than shovels to not puncture my tarp. You ever heard that phrase, doing what other people want so that you'll have what other people don't? Feels like one of those situations, doing something this, I don't know, manual labor, repetitive, back-breaking, but I'm doing this for fun. Skills development, learning experience, chance to be creative, find solutions to problems that haven't encountered before. Having a good day. Improving the technique, realizing that bouncing after I do a couple of quick shakes to get it centered works best to get everything through there quickly. I think the gravity, the bouncing of it helps the material to just find the holes, get pushed through by the things on top. Seems a little bit more efficient. Couple more and I'll be ready for another trip over to the compost bin. Alright, that's another load of compost ready for the bin. Gonna grab a shovel this time. Had a nice little break, got a little something to drink, pack of crackers, ready to keep going. Dogs are out and about today. See if they come over and get on camera at some point. Take a little pause, let the dog back in the house because she's driving me crazy scratching at the door up there. Be right back. Okay, back to it. Mounds to go before I sleep, and mounds to go before I sleep. Making progress here. I can see the pile is getting smaller. Thinking it's at least 2 more wheelbarrows full. And if it's not too late, I may go ahead and get the other bin. But if I'm gonna film this, there's not much point in filming it in the dark. That won't make very good content now, will it? here's my test to see how committed I am to getting this project done today. And here's your chance to see an idiot working in the rain, get a project done before he gets busy with the next project. All right, off to the compost bin. Oh, gonna need this. Be right back. All right, ready for more. That's another full load. Let's take that to the new compost bin. Whew, one more trip. And then that'll be the last one. Ooh, and wait till you get to see this compost bin. That is a beautiful sight. The rain has finally come. Got a nice strong drizzle going. And I will continue. Getting to the last of the pile here. I just realized you can't even see the pile anymore. You probably thought I was done. All right, let's see if I can adjust the camera then. Perfect. Finish the pile here. That was cool. I know that wasn't on the camera, but those were some cool geese flying right over my head. All right, I think that's going to wrap it up. I'm going to get this last load over there, get that in the compost bin, and then I'll move the camera over so you can see how that looks. I'm going to need that. All right, back over at the compost bin. You can see it's filling up here. I'm going to get this last load in there, and then I'll show you the result. All right, that was so much fun. I am so proud of this. All right, let me clean up the second and I'll show you the results. All right, you ready for the big reveal? Let's flip the camera. Ta-da! Look what I have made. I am so proud. That is a huge pile of compost from grass clippings from me cutting the grass last year, the leaves that I raked, the extra ingredients from plants that I grew right there in that garden, kitchen scraps, eggshells. It all went into that. I made this. I am so proud of that. I even made the compost bin that it's in. Yeah, look at the other video for that one. That was a fun project yesterday. We'll do a little selfie here. So I could continue and add more to the pile, but that pile is about as big as it can hold it. So I'm gonna have to figure out what to do with the rest of the compost. I got another whole another compost bin to work through. That might be a bit much for tonight. It's already getting kind of late. So that might be a project for next weekend. I'll go ahead and use the footage from this, go ahead and create a video, get that out this week, and I will continue out in the garden. The weather's getting nicer, although they are predicting snow for tomorrow again. I'm going to continue with it and yeah, enjoy gardening this year and sharing my progress with everybody, my lessons learned. So please go ahead and subscribe. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think of it. Give me some advice. Help me to improve the process here. Or let me know lessons learned that you've had from making compost of your own. All right. Well, I want to end it there. Thank you very much for watching. And go ahead and subscribe so you can see what's coming next. I've got a lot of good things planned. All right. See you next time.